Right, so greetings, fam. It is another Freestyle Friday morning chat where we get to talk in the man cave and out in the world with some of our favorite
Hey.
people. So, of course, I'm Dr. Damon. We're joined with, of course, my co-creator and co-host Donnell Cole, and we have the incomparable Coach Candace Liger with us today. And I'm telling you, if you, first of all, you guys need to be following this. I want you to share it. I want you to like it. You need to send this to your peoples, send this to your groups, because what she is about to share with us and what she is talking about, it means everything to each and every one of you. And if you don't believe me, wait till we get to the end of this conversation and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Well,
Oh yes, we mean this. So those of you who follow us in our modern manhood movement, this is a space where we like to talk about the tough conversations that we have to have in order for us to really show up as our best selves as men, for ourselves, for our family, and for our community. And a big part of that means talking to people who have so much insight and so much knowledge about what it means to show up as our best selves. And when I tell you, Candace has such an amazing perspective and an opportunity to share with you guys some experience, some knowledge, and some dope words about what it means to be human, what it means to be black, what it means to be in connection with other people. Then you can't help but find this to be one of your favorite episodes. So I'm gonna
Absolutely.
introduce. Yes, right. I'm excited about this. Candace is the founder of the Center for Body Autonomy. And I'm going to let her explain what that means. But let me tell you, she is an orator. She is a poet. She is an activist. She is a fitness coach and motivator. She creates lives for people when they say they want to go from here to there. She is a motivator like I've never seen before in really connecting with your mind, body, and your spirit. And when she
Yes.
shares her journey of what that looks like, you can't help but feel like there's more out there for you. So without further ado, Candace, thank you for joining us.
I'm honored. I'm absolutely honored. I feel like we're about to do a deep dive, and
Oh yeah.
I don't quite know the direction that we're gonna flow into, but I just feel confident and safe being here, and I'm just honored to be here.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
We got to start with that because what you just said is absolutely true. We do deep dives here, and we don't set out like this is the plan of what we're going to
Right.
talk about. We don't send questions
It's
out to
free.
people we speak with. It's freestyle, and
Yeah.
we know that allows us to be our most authentic selves, but it also allows us to go into spaces that oftentimes we don't talk about, either in first of all in mixed company, but certainly even in public. So thank you
Right.
for acknowledging that, but having really the bravery to come and sit with us, especially
I
in the
Yeah.
feel
space
so
you
good.
come from.
I
What's
like
that?
the idea. She says she feels safe. So let me just tell you what this looks like, Candace. This looks like whenever you tell people to stand up, raise their hands, and shake their hips.
Mhm.
That's what that looks like,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
That
And so
warm up. Start getting
yeah,
a little
that's
bit.
what that looks like. So tell us about like how did you even get in the position to do everything you do? Because I love your mind. I love how you challenge people to express themselves and you give people a safe space to do that. How did you get involved in everything you're doing? Where did it start?
Man, oh wow. I would say that through a constant introducing introduction to my own evolving self like every day. I feel like that's how I got into it. Like I'm just being curious about learning what my body is capable of, what I'm capable of experience, being aware of, my past, my history, like where I came from, and also being of service in the community. So I got into heavy community work as a fitness coach. And
Mm-hmm.
I went to personal training school, did all that, found some new words, myofascial release, like we got that in there, hypertrophy, bam, and then I got out of school and I started training, and most of my clients were Black women, and I realized very early on, like this this theoretical knowledge really has little to no practical
Mm.
application out into the world because the folks that I was training, they were real humans, right? They were real
Right.
humans who were coming with really robust issues, and a lot of times their goal was actually saturated within a lot of other stories. It wasn't like, I want to work out and get a flat tummy, or lose weight, and it just stayed right there. It was always something like, I want to be able to keep up with my 3-year-old, but I
Wow.
used to be an athlete back in the day, you know what I mean? And I wish I can dribble the same way I used to dribble, what I mean?
Yeah.
And since I can't dribble no more, when I see other people dribbling, it makes me feel insecure, what I mean? My mama threw away my trophies like 10 years ago. You
Wow.
know what I mean? Right. And so it just all kind of just enhanced this story. And so I kind of took that approach with my fitness work. And as I was doing fitness, I got heavily involved in the activism community in Oklahoma City. So I worked with Grace Franklin, with OKC Artists for Justice, and we
Yes.
rallied behind the women who were sexually assaulted by Daniel Holtzclaw.
Wow.
I supported Tondaleo Hall, who was imprisoned for the abuse her partner did to their child. And it was the same thing, right? I noticed that even within the activism community, this is like a really energetic exchange that's happening, and a lot of us are
Mm.
coming into activism with our own stories as well. And I found like a lot of people sick, a lot of people
Right.
like risking it all, like like this is part of the nobility of activism, to be broke and unhealthy. And I
Wow.
didn't want to subscribe to that. I didn't want my folks to subscribe to that. So um and I guess through the pleasure space, I've been able to from being in the streets of Vegas to
Right.
hosting workshops, helping people move through kink, or helping people move through consent, helping
Yeah.
people find different ways to establish and explore their pleasure, and all kind of
How?
combined together to create
How?
the Center for Body Autonomy.
How? So me and Damien had this conversation, right? And he's been working on a project that he's passionate about. And he looked at what you're doing. He said she figured it out. Because a lot of times we do live a fragmented aspect of life. We have ideas, and we seem to be thrilled about all of them. It stirs our soul for just enthusiasm for life. But sometimes we don't know how to put them all together. So, I mean, you talk about conscious consent as a coach, right? Then you talk about pleasure.
Mhm.
Then you talk about a mind-body connection. Like, how did you put all that together?
It really came down to the same thing once I started to look at it. And Center for Body Autonomy, as it is, I just created like in October. So it was a final merging in many ways of kind of my
Mm,
work. But I found like the same things. It's like we want to have control, and make informed decisions over our body, period. Like we want to have
mm,
that power. We want to be able to consent to what does and does not happen to our body. We do not want to experience harm, and we do not want to necessarily cause harm unless we actually mean it. But also, accidental harm happens all the time. We are walking around here. I think the statistic is like 80% of people have experienced trauma in their lives,
yeah,
black people
yeah.
specifically. And I just think that that's a lie. I don't know anybody that I've ever met in my entire life was like, have you never been traumatized? And I'm like, oh no. I mean, that's
Yeah.
like I've literally never had a scratch. I've never
Right.
really been in a car accident.
Right.
I've never
Yeah.
fell off a bike. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
um I think that's really what it was about. I'm deeply dedicated to the liberation of Black folks. And for me, what that looks like is feeling like we have agency over our bodies to make informed
Right.
decisions on what feels good to us, especially
Mhm.
since there's so much conflicting information around what we're supposed to do
Wow.
with our bodies. And then also um, being able to feel, you know, seen, and experience pleasure without feeling like we
Judgment.
owe somebody something now.
Judgment.
You
Yeah. What
Wait,
is, I
say that
mean,
again.
go
Say
ahead.
that. Hold on.
Yeah.
Say that again. Say that last statement again.
Yes.
Oh, be
You,
able to experience pleasure without feeling like we owe somebody something now.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. Like we get to do that. We get to also experience pleasure without feeling like we gotta attach it to something that also happened to us. I get some of some good stories where people like, I really love eating chocolate during sex. something like that. But then then they try to figure out why they like it. I think when I was like 4, I had, and it's like, you can do that, sure, with maybe a professional or maybe a therapist or maybe some guided meditation. I don't know, but you actually don't have to. You don't have to explain to nobody why you experience
Right.
pleasure or the ways you experience pleasure. So that feels very liberating. Yeah.
Interesting. You can just be just to be is what you're saying. So you're giving people the freedom to be, just to be.
Just a beef, but I mean, might as well.
Yeah. That in itself is like really liberating to know that I can be and feel the way I feel, or you're giving me the permission to honor the way I feel and acknowledge that feelings are important. Because a lot of us don't have a relationship with our body, or because we've been predisposed to drama, there's so many judgments that come with it.
Yeah, I think that's huge. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. I don't know if you heard it. And Damon, yeah, I know you heard it. I feel like you
I'm
heard
writing
it.
this down.
Yeah, and it talks about that. It talks about, time goes on, but what we
Body
witness
doesn't
and
forget.
experience stays in our body. It just stays there. And it's information that we can
Yeah.
use. We can tap into. It's energy we can tap into. It's awareness that we can tap into. But a lot of times, I think that it's not even a lot of times. There's a very intentional disconnection, I feel, for and how oppression works when it comes to Black folks, that separate like your productivity, labor, and brain from your body. And so, getting folks back into their body to honor like the information that they already have. Like this didn't feel right because your belly started rumbling.
Right.
You had it wasn't the butterflies, it was a different kind of rumble,
Right.
and you was like, I'm just gonna go push through it, 2 more hours on the clock. Next thing you're finding out like, oh, I've actually been uncomfortable, or
Yeah.
I'm making decisions hungry. I heard it rumbling, but I was making decisions hungry. And
Right.
what the hell I done said yes to.
Yeah. Pushing
Yes,
through.
that space you talk about is one of the things that like really is a motivating factor of what Donnell and I do, because that space of just ignoring what your body is telling you, ignoring what your insight is telling you, is a space that manhood is like, that's a foundation of manhood.
Absolutely.
Traditionally is like,
Yeah.
you just push through. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter. Stop
Mhm.
crying. Don't think
Mhm.
about it. You don't feel anything other than the drive to succeed and go and give
Mhm.
everything you got. Leave it all out on the table. Leave it on the field. And
Mhm.
it's killing us. Black men are dying
Right.
7 years earlier than anybody else. 7 whole years,
Right.
right?
Mhm. Yeah.
From the stress of it all. And yet we're not given the space and allowed to have the autonomy to say, I need a break,
Mhm.
Right.
or whatever it is one might need. So thank you for that, because I know that knowing your work and knowing that space that you thrive in, like, that's the type of coach that I know changes worlds and changes people.
Facts.
And that's the kind of coach that I'm working to be as well. So when Donnell
Uh-huh.
talks about, when I shared with him, like, yo, she's figured it out, that's what I meant.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
I meant.
Candace. And I want to
Go
say
ahead.
this. I called him. I watched your TED Talk yesterday, and I said, go do it. Go do it. Because listen, um, when you have a desire in your heart, but you also have a conviction that says you don't deserve this or this is not you, you always fight against the aspect of yourself that we're often unconscious of because we've internalized our sense of self-concept as the emotional condition.
Mhm.
So for you to be a coach and say, hey, you felt that, this is there, it's okay. It allows people to assimilate in their minds, oh, this is a part of who I am.
Yeah.
And a part of our own suppression or part of our oppression comes because we suppress these things and we don't even know we're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So how do you get a person on that pathway to seeing it? Like, how do you get a person on the pathway seeing, introduce them to aspects of themselves so they can be able to even go and do that, like experience that for themselves?
And when you say experience that, specifically, just
When we say that, man, because there's two aspects of it. You have the pleasure part of it,
yeah.
or let's just say liberation. You mentioned
Okay.
liberation. Let's go with liberation because that's all of it.
Well, I think like I think you kind of named it in a lot of ways. First it was like just knowing, like language is so powerful. Because it could take something that's so hella complicated and be like, oh, for real, that's what I got going on, And it can also do the opposite, right? Where we are self-diagnosing ourselves with things that may not actually be compatible long term or chronically. But a lot of the times when I am working with folks, it's really a matter of asking questions. It's asking trying to ask the right questions so that um, they are able to just be curious about how to, and asking questions that they may not be asked all the time as well. So between like the asking questions part, I feel like the most important thing is that they feel safe and seen, period. We can't do anything if we don't feel safe. Our body is going to automatically react, and one of them flight, fawn, fiend, F's. You know what I'm saying? And we can't actually do liberation work in that way. But the issue is, and just go back to your point, Damon, like Black men are dying, 7 years earlier, is that we're so used to functioning in that space where we're actually triggered, we're actually exhausted, we're actually burnt out, we're actually, not thriving in ourselves. And so, creating a place like where we feel like we can actually breathe, and conversations where we can breathe, conversations where we can like show up for the sake of showing up, and having cheerleaders that say, oh, you showing up, I want to celebrate you showing up in this moment so you can show up more, because you showing up for me, I mean, that's great. I love the energy exchange, but my folks that I work with, especially, they show it up for themselves, and so we keeping the story on them. I've had several sessions with like professionals and all this other stuff. And they hijack the session. Next thing, next thing I know, I'm over there like, oh baby, it's all right. Just put a little water on, a little coconut oil on your knee. But yeah, it's like I think that there's a healthy pathway into showing folks that this is a conversation that they actually have power in. So even if I'm talking to a potential client, before we actually go into the details of the program or anything else, I tell them, look, you don't have to spare my feelings. This is a safe space. So if something doesn't feel right, let me know. If it feels like a maybe, then most likely it's a no. Explore that in our conversations, and lean entirely consciously into your yeses. Let's find the yes.
I like that.
Find what feels good, and that's what we'll invest our energy into. I don't want to invest any energies into maybe as we coach right now. We can do that later, but let's just explore our yeses. And usually you can find a lot about people that way.
So you're trying to make the unconscious conscious.
Yeah. I guess so.
I love that, because what you said, it reminded me of something you said in your TED Talk, which was amazing. Like, you talked about how, as a woman, your maybe face may look like you need to be saved in the eyes of men.
Oh, that was
in that poem. And that's a space where when we talk about what consent looks like, and you masterfully talk about this and teach this, when we talk about what consent looks like, right, in a world with the connections of let's just say men and women right now, and we'll keep it that simple, but we also understand that this goes across the different types of relationships perspective. But when a lot of guys, and we hear about these conversations in our spaces where men have the freedom to kind of share that and we explore it together, but a lot of what men go through, and not to victimize them in this space, but it is confusing as hell. And when we are taught like to go and save and to go and fix and to go and help, but we're hearing from you say, listen, a maybe is closer to a no than it is to a yes. That's a whole revelation for us.
I think the thing with consent, especially with Black folks and Black men and women and folks who identify as such, there are there's like two lanes. There's one lane where we've been taught that passion is the gateway and seduction is the gateway. Like surely you want to be like picked up and thrown against the wall and like overpowered, and this is like really tense, like, and it's supposed to be impromptu and it feels good, and that has worked sometimes. And then like this other lane that looks like, you remember that Dave Chappelle episode where they was check boxing in the bed, like, can I kiss you? No. Can I,
Yeah.
can I, can I hug you? Can
Yeah.
I cuddle? No. Sign right here. After they go down
Yeah,
the whole list of what's
consensual.
supposed to
Yeah.
happen. Yeah, it was like whole consent. And that's what it can also feel like. It can feel like, okay, I'm on this one end where I have all of this passion, and I do want to use my powers of seduction and the laws of attraction and just make this energy and moment happen. And then on the other side, it's like I don't want to fuck up. I don't want to hurt
Right.
anyone. I don't want to get this wrong. And so
Hmm.
like operating left brain, right brain, almost like, oh, I don't know what to do. So I think my when it comes to trying to create like those healthy pieces of consent within
Mm.
a relationship or a dynamic, it's I think what happened is the conversation around consent
Hmm.
became, or is thought of as laborish. It's thought of as like a tedious or like something that's kind of in the way from getting to the objective. And as a part of just my life, my personal intimate life, and what I promote is that conversation is so sexy. That conversation is me saying like, I really really want to engage with your body. I really really want to do this right. I really want to respect it, and we can have this conversation in a way that doesn't look like, I don't know, white people, or like like academia. We don't have to become this.
Right.
We don't have to put ourselves in this box to have the conversation. um but like you said, Damon, it's a challenging phase. I kind of want to stop there for now because I'm curious what you're
Sure.
thinking before, because I can talk about this. I can talk
No,
about it forever.
what I'm
Yeah.
thinking is yes. I'm thinking yes, because what you're saying are the things that are in our heads about that conversation, but because they stay in our head, we feel like we're the only one who feels like that. Like,
Mm,
this is a
mhm.
tough conversation, and to be able to first acknowledge it, that yeah, we all kind of, everybody's uncomfortable in this space, is a big part of that space. When everyone's first encounter with intimacy and sex, no matter if it was your first time and it was their second, third, or fourth time, or if it was both of your first time, doesn't matter, because for you and your experience, it was awkward, it was kind of scary, it was like, what's
Yeah,
happening, what's going
yeah,
on. But since we have, like, and I'm almost 40 years old, since I've had experiences, it's easy to believe or to think that, oh well, this shouldn't be uncomfortable anymore, but it is in that
it,
Right.
space,
it is.
even
It
in
is.
relationships that we've been in for 10, 15, 20 years.
Absolutely.
So
You know,
yeah.
mm,
I mean, it's true. I
mhm,
agree.
yeah. It shouldn't be uncomfortable. It really shouldn't. It's unfortunate that it is. And that's what we are, I think, as Black people, really trying to like actively decolonize. We're trying to
Yes.
create those systems, because what is at the root of consent? Consent, yes, is we want to be able to access each other in a safe way. But that's really not the backbone of consent. The backbone of consent is we don't want to harm each other.
Right.
We don't want to create
Yeah.
harm. And unfortunately, every single last one of us harms. And so
Right.
whether that's gross violations or small ambiguous violations, we cannot determine what is a big harm and what is a small harm. I can identify something as a gross violation, but I can't
Hmm.
tell somebody who experienced what maybe a smaller violation that this was bigger to them. You know what I'm saying? Or this was smaller
Absolutely.
Yes.
for them, because we all have our own interpretations of how harm moves in our bodies, right? And so I think that like it almost feels like, I feel like consent is a war of the egos in a lot of ways, because we
Mm.
don't want to feel like that we we don't want to feel rejection. One,
You don't
we
want to
don't
feel
want
rejected, and you don't want to feel subjective as an inferior aspect or just a tool for someone else's use.
for someone else's pleasure, right? So we don't want to be that thing. Um,
Yes.
we don't want to I don't know, we don't want to create any assumptions necessarily. But a large part of that, and sometimes we don't want to even create no boundary. We don't even
Ooh.
know how to create a boundary. But even worse than a boundary, we don't may not know how to create an access point where we could say, this is how you get to me, or this is how you help bring some of the boundaries down.
Yes.
So that feels like, but that feels like personal stuff in a lot of ways. Like how I respond to those things that's my work, because the other part of the work is that I didn't come into this interaction to hurt you.
Yes.
Like my intentions are that we have a pleasurable interaction. If that's the intention, then why can't we create it? Like, why can't we actually talk about what we want to get out of it? And even specifically, I'm specific. I'm specific. I like being specific.
What
Yeah.
is so? How do you start that conversation? Because this is what you do. This is a profession for you. But
Okay.
for an everyday layman like myself, how do you start a conversation like that that creates a space? Even though we do this, that creates a channel for people to feel space for one, or feel safe for one, comfortably without feeling like you're creating a certain narrative or a judgment, because there's a judgment. I feel like there's a judgment that's there. There's a resistance. We'll just say that there's a resistance that a person longs to be like that, express it freely, but there's apprehension there.
Yeah, because we can't cookie cutter it, right? Some
Mhm.
people want to have that conversation, and some people like, boy, what you talking about? Playing with me,
Yeah.
over here, stop playing with me, wasting time. So you can get both of them, but you can. I think one going into the conversation where you're honoring your values,
Mm.
right? So honoring your values mean no, I'm not gonna come on over here and interact with your body, assuming that I know how to interact with your body better than you can actually tell me, or assuming that everything that I've learned from other people or learned in my encounters is also going to be too effective on you. I'm not gonna do that. And so because I
Yes.
care about this moment, I'm intentional about this moment, then I may not jump head first, right? So the conversation I feel can look like this. It can look like this.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you said, that's it. And I love the fact that you made that about you and your boundaries. Like, because it's really easy for someone to say, come get it. And especially as a man, in the first moment, we're like, well, I mean, but then once you even, and you're not
Mm-hmm.
jumping head. Oh, excuse me. So no. This is about showing up as my best self for you and for me to get what we say we want this to be, which is
Mm.
the best. And that's a space that men first we have a lot of trouble with, because we don't want to show any experience or any expression that says I don't want you, because then all bets are off, and that's a tough space to really have that. But I think what you're saying is being able to make that about who you are, and the
Yeah,
value you see in finding pleasure for yourself and for that other person, even before that encounter happens, helps them to understand that you really have some extreme value for that person and for this experience.
absolutely.
This ain't McDonald's. I'm not just coming through the drive-through with you.
You know
I'm
what
trying
I
to make
hear?
this right. I'm trying to make this like this top 5 star, and that means understanding what's on the menu.
Right.
Yeah.
And I hear care and concern being a part of it. Care and concern. Because it does make a person feel safe, even if it's not nothing that you would be interested in or something that you may be open to, knowing that I care for you and I'm concerned about something that's mutual. I think you mentioned it being negotiation when you talked about it in the TED Talk. And I think that's a big key of it, being able to have an understanding that it's care, there's concern, and that it's not meaning to inflict harm.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and I think so. A negotiation is obviously a word that's very specifically understood within like the BDSM and kink community. But obviously we don't want to go into like intimate encounters like, oh, let's negotiate here, you know.
Right.
But I will say that there are a few questions that I think are really, really, really important, more so than others. One of the questions is, you know, is there any part of your body I can't touch? I did say that in the TED talk, because that's really, really important, because that gives you a framework. Hey, I know I can do all over here. That's one. Another question is, you good?
That's layered. You good is layered. You good? You good? I mean, you
That's
good?
That's a great question. It don't take up a lot of space. If you're in an interaction, like it's a check-in. It's saying that I care that you're good. I care that you're good. And so my folks, from women and femme identified folks, they love it. Love it. You mean you care? Just so keep that in the pocket. You good? Everything good? You know. Love it. I think another question that is good before, and maybe it's not a question, it's just a style of questioning, is just paying attention to what someone is saying and asking them to say more about it. You know, so they say, you know, I really enjoy like oral, you know, and you're like, oh, word? Oh yeah, you enjoy oral? What makes you enjoy oral? Well, I think I like the fact that I can feel like I can let loose, you know, and I like feeling like, you know, warmth and things like this. Like, okay, I did that. Like, so, you know, the next question could be like, is that something that you're interested in right now?
Absolutely.
I don't feel like it's a lot of labor to ask the question like, can I do this? Can I do this to your body? Like,
thank you for
that
simplifying that.
That's true. But I mean, you think about it.
Yeah, I would like to do this. This is something that I would like to. Can I? You know, it doesn't have to happen every single time. A lot of times we're discerning energetically. And so I mean, I think there's a place where we have to give flexibility, especially as Black people, that we're not robotic.
Right.
When it comes to passion and intimacy, like we are energetic beings to the fullest. And so, you know, being able to acknowledge both, like there's an energy here that I'm discerning. There's a check-in that I'm also engaging in. There's a curiosity that I'm creating openings for, that they may not have known that this is the thing that I like, but I'm just going to say it and see how they respond. I'm going to respond in a healthy way that allows someone else to say what they need to say. Oh, okay. So you like cactus. You like cactus on your neck. Okay, that's interesting. I've never actually heard of that. Tell me a little bit
I got
more.
a question.
I love this space. Hold on. Let me, because I see that question.
Go
And
ahead.
here's where
that's a good question.
I love seeing this question. So one of our watchers, he's expressed that he's saving himself to a marriage and he's a virgin. And it may seem like this conversation we're having doesn't involve people who are, you know, who are honoring themselves in that way. And it's the exact opposite. Tell us about what that means when you see that and how this really applies to them being healthy and happy.
Well, you know what? First of all, I started identifying as a joke as asexual like a long time ago. Asexual being somebody who's not moved by sexual attraction. I experience sexual attraction. I'm not moved. Like it could be right in front of me and I'm just not moved until there is a deep, deep connection that feels so spiritually aligned. And also I got into kink and BDSM specifically because I wanted to decenter intercourse. I wanted to decenter sex. And it created this robust list of ways to create intimacy with people, from like coloring together, right, to like like coloring is one of my shits for real, but coloring together to like massages to, you know, like doing hair or bathing together. Like there's so many other things that can be done. The problem is a lot of people can't keep it in the container.
Right.
as it's happening, it's gonna start escalating, you know.
Right.
But I actually love keeping it in the container because it feels, and shout out to the person who asked that question. Because I want to honor them in this. I mean, it takes a tremendous amount of discipline to do that. And sometimes you got to actually prove that to yourself. Like, I think everybody should go into an encounter where they feel like a deep, intimate connection with someone and not have sex. See
Right.
what else you can do. So it's really important for folks who identify as virgins because, like, talk about a boundary, talk about
Mm-hmm.
communication, right? talk about the
Mhm.
need, talk about the need to create and be creative about ways to be intimate with each other. And you know, one thing I experience, and I wonder if this person may have experienced as well, is a lot of times when you give someone a boundary, they be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna change that. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
okay, I heard your boundary, but I'm also thinking in my mind, like, I'm gonna be the one. You just ain't had me yet. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? I can change. And um, you know, I obviously for this person to ask that question, I'm sure that's created a lot of resentment for folks. I get
Right.
it. So, you know, I think it's even more important for people who have very prominent boundaries around how people can access their body, because erotic energy is so much more than sex, right? Like
Right.
we're creating, just creating.
The creation of it. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I think the dope thing about it too is understanding the power that comes with self mastery and understanding the power that comes with energetically conserving your energy in that and having a safe channel for it. Because we
Yeah.
don't recognize how powerful, like sexual energy is powerful. Like it stimulates so many different channels of curiosity in our life, expression, joy. But
Mhm.
being in a position where you can say, hey, I'm going to honor this for myself, but also be able to preserve it so that if I do decide I want to build a life with someone, I can honor them in an intimate way that's not just physical.
Yes,
And we
that's
miss out on that. And that's what I heard you saying, like coloring. It's not just physical, but it's saying I desire an energetic experience and I want to share this with you.
yeah, yeah.
That's true union.
And part of that, part of being able to do that is because you've practiced it on your own. You've
Mm-hmm.
practiced feeling the warm water on your hand and took that second to breathe and be like, you know what, this feels really good. Right. You've practiced like stepping outside and, you know, watching leaves fall and be like,
Yeah.
wow, like you've made a practice of pleasure as a daily habit. And so you can kind of
Yes.
cultivate that curiosity in a different way.
This is mindfulness
Yeah,
Make
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I love make the practice of pleasure a daily occurrence.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness.
with the
Mm-hmm.
small things.
It's,
Mhm.
it's it's small things, and they be feeling
Yeah.
good too. You know,
Yeah.
put on them good old jeans. Be like, oh, these jeans right here, head. You might take a little, 3 minutes or so long in the mirror, like,
Lord,
but
please. That's what it feels like to be conscious and be present and be in the now. Because I think in our day and age, especially for us that are hyperactive, it does require a lot more dopamine. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're not in a state of having healthy boundaries. So we do need the extra stimulants to even feel like we need an experience or to feel like we actually feel.
Mhm.
So, I mean, is this
to
something
feel,
that you've had?
to feel like you actually feel.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
feel. Think
Yes.
about, you know what I'm
for
saying?
sure.
Honestly, like to say I went outside and I felt the wind and I could experience this bliss. To say I went and washed dishes and I felt the soap on my hands
Mhm,
and I feel it and it's stimulating and I could
mhm.
appreciate it, right? I think a lot of times in things that we're doing in day-to-day activities, these are things we take for granted.
Yeah, yeah, naturally, especially if we're in productivity mode. Hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
the beautiful part is whether it comes through sex or writing a beautiful piece of poetry or seeing a piece of art or hearing a song that moves us deeply. our body still has the same hormones.
Yes.
They're not creating new hormones because we're
Yes.
doing this thing or this thing. Our body is still pushing the same hormones out. So that dopamine and that serotonin and all those energies that feel good, that adrenaline when we get excited, right? It's the same shit. So
Yes.
how we learn how to acknowledge those feelings when we have them, when our heart rate increases, when we see something that just moves us, right? Like that's the same stuff. That's the same energy. So
Yes. Serotonin is serotonin is serotonin.
it's serotonin, it's serotonin. You're like, go ahead and get your joy. Go ahead and get your high. Find your high.
Listen,
Identify your highs. Get
Hey,
high.
all this nerd talk, serotonin, biochemistry. Hey man, hold on real quick. Asa LeBeau says, love all three of y'all. I love all three of y'all. All right, headed to management meeting. Hashtag consent. Hashtag kink.
I love
listen.
Asa.
And he gonna take us right into like where you already talked a little bit about BDSM. First, can you explain what that is? But I love that a lot of people
Please.
aren't gonna really catch that we have already been talking about that like we've been in that so long
Cool.
in this
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
conversation, and they didn't even know that that's what we've been talking about, or rather that it applies just as easily to that as it
Right.
does in our conversations, because that's a space that is taboo for us culturally, but also even more so as Black people. And let's not even go into Black men. We can't even.
I'm late to the
So
party. I just found out what it was. Peep, I was at a party the other day where you play the game and they put the thing on your head and you got to figure out what it is. And mine was BDSM. And I'm like, BDS, what is this?
ca-
Fam.
catch us up, Coach. What's up?
Yeah, yeah. So, just like with anything, I feel like Black people are the creators and the originators of everything. Everything minus oppression. Everything minus systemic racism, right? So BDSM is a lifestyle community that let me tell you about what BDSM stands for. So you have BDSM, which is bondage discipline. You have the DS, which is domination submission. And then you have the SM, which is sadism and masochism. Hearing those words together in that way for what this acronym stands for can be really, really intimidating for a lot of people because it feels like it feels taboo, right?
Mhm.
But BDSM is largely rooted in like power dynamics and power exchange, right? And
Really?
so if you use cuffs, if you like to use, little handcuffs in the bedroom or something like that, that's bondage. If you like to be told good boy, good girl, something like that, that might be part of your discipline. You may actually like inflicting, being really clear, pleasurable
Pain.
pain,
Right.
consensual pain, or you may like experience it, pain being relative, right? Because that can be really, really small to like a little nibble on the neck to really, really big to like a paddle, right? But I will say that BDSM it's just because it's so power dynamic heavy that um, I am really intentional to not just use that language when I'm talking to Black folks
Okay.
because there's so many of the archetypes and things that from dominant to master to
Mm-hmm.
oh gosh, rigor and all these other things. Rigor is a person who works with rope, but that are they're so rooted in power dynamic, they may not give Black people the safety to feel like they can explore. So then kink comes into the equation. Kink
Okay.
is kind of the overarching umbrella that includes BDSM and also includes interactions that aren't rooted in power dynamics. So for instance, in kink, I may, let's say I do want a little pain. I do like biting, or I do like to be bit or something. I can be bit and not be like, I'm giving you my body to bite me. I'm relinquishing all of my power.
Right.
I don't do that. Like it can be an exchange that's not rooted in honestly what I feel like just white supremacy. Like BDSM feels like a level of whiteness that is like power, 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 power. And
Right.
King kind of gives it back to us and create spaces where we are having intimacy that the archetypes look different. So instead of like a dominant or submissive or master slave that may be present in BDSM. Like in kink, it may be like a nurturer, right?
Right.
Or it could
A little bit
be,
of softer tone to kind of balance it out.
yeah, I mean, softer tones, and again, throwing away that power dynamic. Because, like, what is kink then? For me, if anybody who does work with the body, period, is engaging in that, because
Right.
you can't work with anybody else's body without there being some type of power dynamic in general,
Mm.
Yes.
um and some energetic dynamic in general, right? Some consent, some hopefully pleasure, or at
Hmm.
least a trajectory to it.
It's
So anybody
interesting.
works. So we talking about, whether they're giving massages, whether they're giving tattoos, like I think tattoos are king. Whether they're doing hair, right? This is a pleasurable experience and it's really, really intimate. Two ways where, in kink, it could be like dancing together. It could be
Hmm.
cooking together. Like this could be my kink. My kink could be cooking lasagna specifically
Wow.
with you, and that's what I found. And I want now. I don't got all these relationships. I don't cook lasagna with these people. You know what I'm
Yeah. Yeah. I only
Yeah.
cook lasagna with you, baby. Only cook
saying?
lasagna with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
It could be that. There is a wide scale of activities that can kind of happen, but I can guarantee that there are things that we are actually doing
That's
every
interesting.
day that we may not identify them as kink. So
Yeah.
it's just an erotic space that decenters sex. So think of
That's
everything else you could possibly do
Yeah.
outside of penetration, maybe,
Yeah.
and kind of go from there.
And like my kink is making sure you ain't binge watching the next Netflix show that we was watching together. let me go ahead and pull it up, and I see it's one episode ahead. We got problems.
Mhm. Yeah.
this this space.
I
So
did say
so
outside of penetrate. Let me correct that. Penetration is definitely a part of kink. So let me just correct that part.
Thank you,
okay.
Candace.
It can be.
You
It
can
can
it
be is what
can
I'm
be,
hearing.
but
It can
yeah.
be, and you get to decide that though.
Mhm.
This space where you've talked about like what that is, it makes me hear what we talked about a while ago, which is when you're able to set boundaries and entry points. Now
Mhm.
you're in a space where you feel safe in what this experience is, but still there's so much for you to explore. And for me, that's simply what it means to go into
Mhm.
that space, is to be able to be clear about what your boundaries and what your entry points are. And when you describe those entry points, they don't always mean dinner, roses, and wine,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It may
Right.
involve all the other things we've talked about,
Yeah.
maybe
Mm.
coloring together, maybe enjoying cooking a meal together that speaks to
Mhm.
both of your passions. Maybe this talks about having tools or things or toys like handcuffs, like vibrators, like other things
Mhm.
that speak to what you're, and then exploring what that boundary is. Because if your boundary is you have control over this right now you get to
Yeah.
really get into that space and honor that person by giving them some level of control with
Yeah.
respect for who you are and who they are.
I like
That's
it.
what I like.
Yeah.
That's when. So Donnell, when you asked me the other day, what do you know about that? That's what I know about it. Having had so few experiences. All right, I'm gonna tell you a story. Experiences with the kind of what it looks like, what BDSM is supposed to quote unquote look like. So several lifetimes ago, I was in an interaction with a woman that I had shared interactions with before. So this was not a first interaction, but she was really excited about sharing something with me and she wanted to surprise me. And I was like, I love surprises. This is going to be fun. And when I opened my eyes, there was a riding crop, right? Standard kind of riding crop. And I can tell you, my expression ruined the whole mood, because what
Yeah.
happened is she saw on my face something that wasn't comfortable, something that
Uh,
did not speak to the want that was there just moments ago. And that it ruined the mood, because one, she was excited about it. I, in my experience, in that moment, I was like, okay. And I was like, okay, let's talk about it. But it was so much of a space where we couldn't have the conversation that we've been talking about this whole time, and being
wow.
able to talk about that.
Interesting.
Right? Because here's the thing is I wasn't scared of the riding crop. but I hadn't been prepared to understand what boundaries we had set with ourselves, even
Right.
though this wasn't, and that space is really important for us to really go into. So
That's a profound story because the reality of it is that everybody don't want to be surprised. And
Right.
sometimes you surprise somebody and they react to it in a way that neither one of you anticipated. Right. I
mhm.
think that's my worst fear. I saw a post on somebody's page. It was like, hey, if you want to try new things in the bedroom, what do you do? Do you just bring it in or do you have a conversation about it? And I looked at the comments and everybody was like, well, if you're in a relationship with a person for a long time and they trust you, just start introducing the new things in and they should be able to tell you when it feels uncomfortable. Like how you know what they should be able to do.
Right.
You don't get to do that. And so, that was a setup because they could have had that conversation with you beforehand so that
Right.
they actually could have gotten maybe more of what they wanted to experience, which was they wanted to feel seen. They wanted you to not be as surprised. And
Right.
they could have just said, I have a surprise. And they could have shown the riding crop. If I'm playing in a space and I have a toy, I know I got toys around here. I started looking, but and I have a
I,
I don't have
while she was looking around like it was like one of the kids that was getting into her stuff. Wow.
one of them is. But if I'm engaging in a space with Black people specifically, and they're curious about the toys that I have present, the most important thing for me is that they see it. They
Mm-hmm.
see the toy, they hold it, right? They actually examine it. They ask me about like how do you use it, things like that. We don't really move from there. I'm not gonna just even in my personal relationships. If I have a new thing, I show it to them. Even if
Mhm.
I may not say anything, I can just be like, and I might
And
just
spark a
temperature check
conversation. Yeah.
and spark
Yeah.
a conversation, and they may be like, hell yeah, or what's
And
that?
and here's the thing is that when I talk about this story, like when I say the look on my face, it wasn't of disgust, it was literal surprise, but that wasn't, as you said, the expected reaction. And
Mhm.
in the conversation about it, there was a space where I recognized, like, well, that wasn't the reaction I thought I would have. If when I think about moments like this happening, I didn't react the way I thought I was going to react, and being able to
Right.
Right,
say,
right.
that's real, because I was like, first of all, I was like, oh, my reaction is way different. Okay, wait, don't let this like, hold on,
Yeah, let me
we can
let me check in with
like
myself.
just let me check in,
Give me
but
a second.
but again, the interaction of that space didn't even allow us to move through that space. And so
Wow.
yeah, we have to be
And what
able
if you had
to get
been
there.
what if you experienced being whipped as a child with branches off of the tree by your family
Right.
for all of your life, and that was a very prominent part of your trauma history, and you saw somebody pull this out with a smile on their face, right?
Well,
And they have no preparation for how you made, and it literally
Wow.
happens, and sometimes we
Candace,
just
that
go
was
with
it.
it.
Yeah.
That was a part of my experience that I had to explore, and it took some time. I had to explore why my reaction was that way and why my reaction
Right.
surprised me. And then
Mhm.
going into that, I started to realize that being in that space of giving over that power and that part of my experience and that part of my body was not a pleasurable thing for me based
Yeah.
on the things that I experienced in the past. And boy, try to have that conversation when you're in there in lingerie.
Yeah, man. God
Now you over there
dang.
looking like you mind blown. You like, man.
Well, I'm just thinking about it. Like, think about it. Two different worlds, and one is pleasurable, but for you, it's we're mindful of a time that your power has been stripped from you.
Yeah.
And so you got someone that's desiring experience a really great, really great. And there's a part of you stimulated by like, hey, this would be awesome. But then you also have things that's in the background. It's like, yo, I don't know, fam. I don't know. Like,
And we
so
can do both at the same time too.
Yes.
Like
right,
we can learn to do both. We can practice to do both. I know like therapists don't recommend stuff like that. I do because therapy ain't 100% effective. So
mm, it's a good
so
point.
I mean that's the reality of it is, but you yeah, you can have feelings of like doubt, uncertainty. You could remember something
Mhm.
about this object or a moment like this before. And with consent, with autonomy, you can say, you know what, I'm actually going to walk into this, but to approach it this way. And one big example that I have is like spanking. That's a big
Right.
thing, is spanking with your hands, right? And like I talk to a lot of men, and they like, when I have sex, I like to spank it, be from the back, and all this other stuff. And it's like, cool. And that's great until you meet the one that doesn't want that.
Right.
But the
Right.
other thing is, when they hear about like spanking, and I say, okay, show me what you spank like. They go, huh?
Home run.
It's like, and so even with like those moments where it feels like I don't even know exactly how I feel, but I know this is a yes. Like there's a way to make it feel comfortable and check in and right and like go through the
Mhm.
process um without re-traumatizing. Like that's
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
what I
I
hear
love
is
that.
you saying is like it's the opportunity to be able to rewire neurocircuitry, to be able to acknowledge there are probably some pains and hurts that's been done there, but a way to like alter the narrative in the way that it serves you now. Because,
Yeah.
and I think
Way
of it
in the
like,
way it serves you now.
right.
Yes.
So I think about it like, let's say it's not, involving intimacy, but let's think of it like some people have a hard time receiving compliments.
Mhm.
Just receiving compliments is hard. You be like, "Hey, you look good." Nah, I mean, I could have done something better with my hair. So, and right? And you like, yo, I can't even receive receive a compliment. But if you think about the way that mind works, and it's like, fam, if you can get better to receiving a compliment, get used to it, familiarize yourself with it, it can become a healthy part of your life. I feel like I'm giving game right now. Like,
You are
you
giving
know,
game.
I'm trying to get somebody to improve their bedroom action. All right, it might feel uncomfortable, but it might feel good if you just have it in the right scope of life. That's all I'm saying.
Uh-huh. You mean like if you get the setup right, you can do a lot of
Absolutely.
things, right? If you can get the setup.
Yeah.
There's one other story I always tell about like going out on a date with someone and you're really into this person and y'all are sitting side by side and maybe at a I don't know, I don't want to say a bar, let's just say a park because it's always a bar, right? And so you're sitting on the bench side by side, and then one person puts their arm around the other person, and they
Right.
freeze up, and they're like, "Oh!" But they freeze up not because they don't like the person or they're not attracted to it.
Right.
They
Yeah.
freeze up because it just happened, and they need to be more comfortable. And so
Yeah.
this is an opportunity. So that moment is an opportunity. One, that person could have asked, sure, right? Okay.
Right.
Put their arm around it. But also the responsibility in those small moments like that are on both people. So that's an
Mhm.
opportunity. If I've got the arm around, it's like, okay, maybe you can move your arm. Can you move your arm? But don't take it from around me. Can you just put it on the bench instead of my back for right now?
Yeah.
Like just like I want your arm here, I just don't want it on my body yet. Or creating the access point so that this moment is not completely missed, where
Right.
if I tense
Yes.
up, you jump back. Next thing you don't know if I like you. I don't know if you like me. Are you trying to attack me?
Right.
I don't know. I ain't got no money. I ain't got no cash. Like,
Right. And holding the fence.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
now, oh, because I can't put my arm around you, something must be wrong with me.
Something must be wrong. I'm rejected. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want you to feel rejected. I want you to know that I like you. So maybe you
Yeah.
can't put your arm around me just yet, but you will.
Listen,
Song.
kid, that's
I like it.
space. Giving each other the space to really experience the duality of our feelings and the complexities of it is so important
Mm.
because there's no one way of feeling or dealing with it, especially when we talk about connecting um, in ourselves and with other people. So yes, Candace. Oh, this is so much fun. We could do this for like hours, but we can't.
We can.
Thank you so much. There's
Yeah.
I can't wait to go back and listen to this again and see this again because there's just so much here to grow and love with. And thank you for coming on here with us and sharing with us this early morning. Yeah, we talked about some stuff this early morning, but
Yeah, we
I love
did.
it. I love
Yeah,
it.
no, I'm so happy to have been invited, and I appreciate what you're doing, especially for Black men, right? To have this space where you know that this is a very vulnerable space, and it's a
Yes.
very sacred space, and there's not enough of them. There's not enough of them. So thank you for being present, and I can't wait to like disseminate this out. Listen to this. Follow these brothers. Follow these brothers right here.
Love it. So right now, we want you to tell them where they can find you. I'm gonna put your listen. I got you. I want them to see where to find you. So
Hey.
tell us
That
where
little
you are, Candace.
makeshift logo. You can find me at Center for Body Autonomy. That is on that website. People can contact me directly, schedule kind of discovery calls, and determine how I may be able to better support them or point them in the right direction if I can't, because that's very real. And
Awesome.
also, Instagram, Coach Felyne, Felyne. And yeah, I am also going to be opening up training again very soon. I take little groups of people. So if anybody's interested in like fitness coaching, anything along those lines, you can also contact me. Center for Body Autonomy, right there on the website is the best way to get in contact me. I'm not trying to email you back and forth. I'm trying to talk to you on the phone because I'm from Mississippi and I need to talk to you.
Listen. All right, and I have to put this out here. So, Candace, I signed up for your Kink 101 course,
Did
right?
you?
Yeah, I did, and I'm excited. So, listen, I looked at the introduction. I haven't gotten into the course material because honestly, with like this is a really busy month for us, and I'm like, I want to be able to really dedicate some energy and some focus to it. But I'm super excited, and anybody who has any questions about what we're talking about right now and what our conversation has been today, just looking at the outline, looking at her course, her curriculum and what she's off, like you will love this course. So I haven't even taken the course, but I have to tell you it's dope because I'm excited about what I know is in there. So I needed to say that I'm excited, and believe me, I will be letting you know what my experience is with that.
I
So
can't
look
wait.
forward to
That's
that.
There's a
legit.
lot of information in there, David. There's a lot of
I know
information. And
that excites me.
if I could leave with just one thing to
Hmm.
kind of wrap up this whole conversation, um,
Yes.
the most important thing we can do is not always at the beginning, is actually at the end. Is
Mm.
actually at the end of an encounter. And that's taking care of each other. We call it aftercare. That's where we're
Mm-hmm.
checking in. That's where we're asking so something could be done differently. How do we feel? What do we need? Do we need water, nourishing ourselves, taking care of our bodies and giving our bodies a space to get back to balance and homeostasis
Mm-hmm.
is the most important thing that we can do, not just with intimately, but in any moment where we feel our bodies kind of accelerate with that hormonal energy is getting back to grounding. So please
Absolutely.
continue taking care of yourselves. 2022 out here in these streets, drink more water, get more fresh air, and keep taking care. We need to
Thank you, Candace.
Yes.
Thank you
Yes.
so much for that.
for sure.
Yes.
For sure.
Donnell, you got to talk to him about what we got going on in the man cave because
So
this is
what's up,
about to
people?
be a
Y'all know what's
time.
popping, man. Y'all know every last Monday. Don't be acting like you don't already know. Every last Monday it goes down at our man cave meetup. This month, get your vocals ready. Me, because we got karaoke. All right. Not everybody can be a Daniel Caesar or a Dr. Damon. However, that does not prevent us from being able to come together and have an amazing time and win surprises, right? Because we can win surprises this Monday. I don't think we have a Monday where we won prizes, but this one we do. There's a karaoke competition. So holler at your people. It's $10 to register, $10 register. First 10 tickets get a free drink, so you can get your free drink and you can win some prizes at the same time. And women are they can come. Women come. It's open to women, men and women. All right.
Yes, this is a party. We've had plenty of meetups where it's guys only, and we've enjoyed some dope experiences. And the ladies keep asking us, like, when can I come? Monday. You can
Yep.
come Monday. You
This
can come
Monday.
Monday. Come
That's
on
it.
out.
I
Come
think
on out.
Candace trying to get back in. That's funny, bro.
Yes, so we're excited about that. And then coming up, the masterclass, yo.
Hey, yo, let's go. So if you guys don't know, we have a 2-hour incredible interactive experience where you have the opportunity of being able to align with your ideal self, get clear on your vision. We're going to talk about how to embrace anxiety. And then after that, we're going to end it with the happy hour. So we're going to play hard, we're going to work hard, and we're going to play hard to become the best version of ourselves. And I'm looking forward to this masterclass.
Listen, this one we're partnering with Rose State College. They have literally given us an entire building and an auditorium. So there is space for you brothers, like literally space for us to do the work and to show up and to literally walk out of this experience a better version of yourself than you walked in. And one of the things we're really excited about is we are bringing this free to students.
Absolutely.
Free in Oklahoma City. Like if you're anywhere near Oklahoma and you want to come to Oklahoma City for free to come to this masterclass, you need to register and be there. It's as simple as that. So if you are 17 years old and you are a male and you are free to come to the masterclass, you need to register. So everyone we're asking to, and this is again, Donnell and I have been saying this a lot lately. Like there's a space for counseling. There's a space for therapy. This ain't it. This is a celebration of being our best and better selves as men in a modern world.
Yeah.
So we are going to move in that energy. So we want you to show up. We want you to get the playbook in your hands. We want you to have the experience of knowing who you are, where you are, and where you want to go. And we can move that way together as a community. So come out. We also have vendors who are going to be setting up their booths. So they'll be sharing all of the wonderful things that they have for the community. We'll be able to talk to you guys about what else we have going on in the community coming up, because our Modern Manhood platform is a culture, it's a movement, and we've got a lot of dope stuff coming down the pipeline. So we're really excited about that. Get your tickets, check on the website, manhoodmasterclass.com to register. Again, it's free for any students who are 17 and older. And if you are not a student and you're a responsible man who still, again, need, like our last masterclass, our age group was between ages of 22 and like in their 50s. This is not a building better men experience, a building, making boys to men experience. This is a building better men from wherever you are in your life. We've had professionals in there with people with master's and doctorate degrees who walked out of here saying, I needed this today. Yeah. So we're not just talking to students, we're talking to all the men who need to be in this space to walk better for yourself, for your family, and for your community. So join us April 2nd at Rose State College. All right. So with that being said, we're going to give y'all's Friday back because you get to go out there and do dope stuff. Once again, we want to share our esteemed gratitude to you, Candace, for jumping in this with us and sharing your wisdom. And we can't wait to see what else is coming from you and for you. So go out there and be great.
Sending it back to you. Much success, fellas. Much success.
Thank you.
Love you guys. Hey, shout us out, share this broadcast, and look out for the link for the podcast audio, because all of our Friday freestyle chats are on our webpage, manhoodmasterclass.com. You can go to the podcast link and it'll share all of our conversations. This one will be up there real soon. Peace.